everyone, thank you so much for joining for today's video about varnishing. So in this week I got a few paintings to varnish and I wanted to share that process with you. And do not take this video as the only way to varnish a painting. Of course, there are many different possibilities and it really depends on multiple aspects like the paints that you use, your painting technique, and your overall preferences. This approach that I show you is based on my studies and experiences, and I just wanted to share with you the way that works best for me and that I find is really simple. There are many different varnishes, natural ones like Dammer, Copal, and Amber, and synthetic ones, and also spray varnishes. So you might want to try out different varnishes and see which one fits best for you. Normally, when you paint a painting with traditional oil paints, you have to wait for 6 to 12 months before you can varnish it, because the painting needs to be completely dry, which takes quite a long time with oils because they dry by oxidization. This is one main reason why I chose the varnish that I use, because this particular product is made in a way that I can varnish the painting when the surface is dry to touch, which allows me to finish it a lot earlier. Of course, when you use acrylics, you can varnish the painting a lot earlier because they're completely dry the very next day or even the same day. You see, it's important to find out all the necessary details of your product so that you know how to use it properly. As you work here with toxic solvents, you should work in a well-ventilated room with the windows open. Most of the time I wear a mask just to keep it safer, especially when I have to varnish for a longer period of time. You could also work outside, although I don't do that because I cannot really control the circumstances. So when there's lots of wind and particles flying in the air and something lands on the painting, that's quite annoying. So that's why I prefer to work indoors. But this could be different for working with a spray varnish, then I would rather varnish outside. And if you have any pets or kids around you, it's good to have them outside the room just to keep them safe. So let's talk about the advantages of varnishing a painting. So varnish basically works as a protection for the painting, and it unifies the shiny sheen that you can sometimes see on the surface. And what I love most about varnishing a painting is that it really deepens and saturates the colors in a way that the painting seems to be more alive. So the darks get darker and the lights get brighter. And I love when there's lots of contrast within the painting. To me, this is really fascinating and interesting. You know, basically it's just a flat area, a flat surface. And with painting, I'm able to create a room onto that flat canvas, like a 3D world, which is so fascinating. And the more contrast I integrate within the painting, the more this room opens up. All that being said, I'd like to show you now step by step how I varnish a painting. The painting needs to be flat on the table, and the materials that I use are two different types of brushes, the varnish and clean jar and clean racks. These are some soft and fluffy brushes which I use for cleaning the painting, and this one is for varnishing. It's a flat synthetic brush. The varnish that I use is this Gamvar picture varnish from Gamblin. First of all, I clean the painting, I remove all the dust from the surface, and I do that by soft and gentle movements with this fluffy brush. And then I wipe off the dust and hairs by using a clean rag instead of my fingers because I don't want to get any oil from the skin onto the brush hairs. Also, sometimes there can be little spots, and for that I just use a tiny bit of water and I scrub really gently back and forth. And I think it's important to say that the varnish that I use is available in 3 different types. There is a matte, a satin, and a glossy varnish. So I use the glossy varnish because it deepens the contrast the most. The matte varnish is right to the other side, so the painting surface isn't that shiny, but the colors, especially the dark ones, appear quite dull. And the satin varnish is in between of them. So it really depends on your preference, but you could also mix them. You could use 2/3 of satin varnish and 1/3 of glossy varnish, for example. And I pour a little bit into a clean jar or something similar like that to be in charge of the amount that I'm going to apply. Because it can be too much when I pour it right onto the canvas and then I have to wipe excess varnish. I grab a bit with the brush and start here at the left side and apply it thinly from the left to the right side, step by step, from the bottom to the top. It doesn't need that much varnish. We really want to apply a really thin and even coat. So if there are any brush strokes visible, you definitely have too much varnish and it really doesn't need that much. So it's better to apply 3 thin coats than 1 thick coat. And also make sure that there are no varnish pools. It is recommended to apply 1 to 3 coats, but not more than that because then the painting gets way too shiny. And normally I do 1 coat. And because the varnish is shiny, it is easy to see if there are still some spots that are left out, so I look from different angles to make sure that I don't miss any areas. And when you apply the varnish, it is important that you use a very clean brush because there can be some fibers which makes then the painting quite dusty, which is kind of annoying. So I always keep an eye out for these fibers and I pick them up immediately to keep the painting as clean as possible because especially in the bright areas, they can be really visible. And in the end, I just have a final look if I covered everything and if there's still some dust, and then I hang it on the wall again. So that's it for today. I hope this explanation was helpful to you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here and watching this video. I wish you a wonderful day and I will see you in my next video.